All right, Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. I was going to say too that Spencer's got three finals this week with business school because their finals are earlier than the rest. So he is definitely overloaded without question. We've had three straight really emotional games. You play Notre Dame at home, and that's a very physical game that you're disappointed and you lose. Then you play Virginia Tech at home that had beaten us 4 out of 5, the last 4 out of the 5 that we've played. Emotional game, regional game, really important conference game, and then you go on the road to Miami, and you play a very, very physical team that comes down to the last minute. And you get in at 1 o'clock in the morning. So guys that play college football are really special. They have to go to class. They're obviously regular students. And then we get up and start meetings every morning at 6:30 in the morning. They just finish practice and they run from here to grab something to eat and go to class. And then they'll lift probably this afternoon too. So I do want to give a shout out to all of the young people that are playing college football across the country and how dedicated they are and how much they work and what gives them opportunities to be better than some other people in the job market when they get out, because they've sure stood the test of time. Secondly, I'd like to say thank you to our strength and conditioning staff. We played a really hot game in Boone, North Carolina, which I never thought I'd say, but is the hottest I've ever seen Boone. I lived up there quite a bit, and it was really, really hot, especially in that fourth quarter, and we didn't have cramps. It was 88 with the humidity when we started the game at Miami and came away with absolutely no cramps and didn't have anybody have to come out of the game because they were tired. So our depth's getting better, but our nutritionist and our strength staff have done an amazing job. And our depth is better, especially on the defensive line. We talked about that. We played 12 guys the other night, and we told the guys today, you can keep playing, but you got to earn the right to play. Don't get complacent because I'm going to get my 15 plays or I'm going to get my 20 plays. You've got to go back and prove it. And we need more guys to step up in the offensive line. We've got to have more depth developed in the offensive line than we've got. Our tight ends we've got depth. Our running backs, we've got depth. Our receivers, we've got depth. Our defensive backfield, we've got depth. Linebackers, we do not, but we don't have the numbers there. We've got to get those numbers up in the offseason. But defensive line has stepped up with depth. Practice has been really good this week. Kids get excited about playing Duke. It's a rival game. It's really important to our fan base and student body. And when that's the case, it really kind of runs through the team and generates some more energy for them. They said at the first of the year, it was all about passion, accountability, and toughness. This is the past midseason. This is the 7th game of the year. They've played with passion every week. That they're becoming more accountable. It is becoming a more player-led team, which we've seen. Coaches can't be out there on the field with you on Saturday. And especially been that way on defense to see their improvement the last 2 weeks. And the offense needs to continue to get more leadership and do a better job throughout, because they've had so many great games. It's been so easy. It's going to start getting tougher for them. Coastal matchup. We have a chance to be 6-1 for only the second time since 1997. So we haven't been a consistent program. We have a chance to get bowl eligible with a win. It's the 4th consecutive road game. We've won 3 in a row. We haven't had 4 in a row since 2016. You play for the Victory Bell that started in 1948. So your supporters, your boosters, especially your older group of fans, love this game. This is the most exciting game of the year for a lot of them. Duke's playing really, really well. You got to give Mike Elko so much credit. We've played 4 first-year coaches the last 4 weeks, or this will be the 4th. When you look at new coach at Notre Dame, new coach at Virginia Tech, new coach at Miami, and Mike's done a tremendous job. They did a good job with the transfer portal. I think they've got 6 transfers starting. but they've got good players, but they are playing hard. They're very well coached. They're forcing turnovers. They're tied for third in the ACC and 15th nationally in turnover margin. They've had 8 fumble recoveries. They're first in the ACC and second nationally in fumble recoveries. They're averaging 32 points a game, which is really, really good. And their quarterback, Riley Leonard's very impressive. He's big, he can run, he can throw, he makes good decisions. He's third in the league with completion percentage at 65%. But more importantly, they're only giving up 19.7 points per game, fourth in the ACC. And they're playing hard. They obviously know what to do. They're lined up right, but they are playing really, really hard. And that's such a credit to Mike. Our defense hasn't played near as consistent football as theirs. And they're dangerous on special teams. They had an 81-yard punt return against Georgia Tech for a touchdown last week. But I think you're seeing Mike's experience at academic schools. You're seeing the fact that he was an 18-year defensive coordinator and made a tremendous name for himself at Wake Forest, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M. And we coached against him and his defense in the Orange Bowl 2 years ago. So he's got a feel of what we do offensively, and our offensive staff has the same. They have a feel of what he does defensively. You go back to one more statement, and then I'll answer some questions. You go back to this rivalry from 2012 to 2018, Duke won 5 out of 7. David Cutcliffe did an unbelievable job. And the last 3 before we got here, 2016, 17, and 18, Duke won 3 in a row. So there's players on the team that have definitely had success over here, and their school and a lot of their staff know what it's like. So we're expecting a great crowd on Saturday night, and it should be a fun game. Questions?
All right, Luciano, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I hope you're doing well, and thanks for your time. I'll take you back to those winning streaks you just mentioned. If I'm not mistaken, North Carolina has won 11 straight games against Duke with you as a coach. How important do you think that is leading into this game, especially now that they have a new head coach?
I really don't think that that has anything to do with it. Each year is different. Each team is different. This team is different from our last year's team and so forth. So I think one of the beauties of college football is year to year doesn't matter that much, but even week to week now doesn't seem to matter as much as it used to. So you've got to go out there and play your best and win every week. And both teams will be motivated. Both teams will be excited. And this is important to both schools.
Thanks. Michael Coe, go ahead.
Hey, Mack, both you and Phil were talking about on Monday just keeping Caleb Hood healthy. How much of that is, conditioning his body and eating right and getting sleep and all that, but how much of it is also just not having bad luck, I guess?
Michael, I think with him, it's been bad luck. He ran the ball so much as a quarterback in high school, and he really didn't get hurt. And he's just been banged up here in so many different ways since he's been here. So he's got to have some better luck in his future.
And going back to what Luciano was asking, you've coached in a lot of games in this rivalry. Looking back on it, is there one game or there are a couple games that you look back on and that's like the defining moment for you that defines this rivalry?
Probably the one I remember the most is I just married Sally, and we were playing the last game of the year. And if we beat Duke, we went to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. And if we lost to Duke, we went to Hawaii. And she knew nothing about football, but she loved Hawaii. So she said, should we win or lose this game? And I said, no, we can afford to go to Hawaii if we win the game and go to the Peach Bowl. So, but there's been so many tremendous games that came down to the last play, and they've been so close through the years. And rival games are fun. They're just fun because there's more interest and more energy during the week for the players and the students of both universities and the fans.
Did you end up getting to go to Hawaii at some point?
I think it was on a Nike trip, but yes, we did win the game. We went to the Peach Bowl, and she learned after that winning was more important than Hawaii.
Cool. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Michael.
BJ Tillman, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. So, Coach, it's clear that Power Eccles, despite being a true sophomore and a first-year starter, is a very vocal leader on the team, and particularly for the defense. I'm curious to know, were you surprised to see him step into this role?
I really wasn't, BJ, because he was that way in high school. He was, I think he was the president of the student body as a senior, but he was a tremendous leader and very passionate. He was a great student, and he's one of the more fun young people I've ever been around. He is upbeat every day. So if I'm feeling bad, I go find Power to pick me up. And that's just the attitude he has. And he practices like he plays. He loves to play the game of football. And that's carrying over to some other members of our defense. And it's really, really helping everybody be more passionate. And see when you set a standard of excellence like he does, and like said Gray and like Dre Boykins, Noah Taylor, those guys are pulling everybody else up, and it's really helping our defense.
Art Chansky, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. One quick question about Spencer, talking about what a leadership role he had. Coming from the Ivy League and being a grad transfer and all that, did you think he could be as good as he was? Did you think he could be the leader that he turned out to be?
Art, we thought he would be really good. The competition is different. And he didn't get to come in spring because he was graduating from Harvard this spring. So he missed all of spring practice. And it's very difficult for an offensive lineman to come in June, July and be ready to go when he hasn't played in the system, and he really hadn't had to protect against the speed rushers that he does in this league. Obviously he was smart enough, so that wasn't an issue. The rest of us don't want to talk to him about anything but football. We kind of have a rule. We don't get into discussions with him about life or NASA or his internships at Harvard, and we Coach Bicknell and I stay away from those discussions for sure. And I did tell Jack, he said, well, I don't know how quick he can pick up the offense. I said, all he has to do is count to 3. And I think he can do that with his Harvard background. But he has competed. He's worked really, really hard. He had some schedule issues early and he missed some practice. And he's such an upbeat, positive person that he's brought a lot to our offensive line.
One more, pivoting off of Luciano's question. The last time Duke beat you, Spurrier was the coach in the famous scoreboard game. I know you remember that one, but that back then you and the old ball coach were just starting out in Power 5 football, and there was some banter back and forth between you two. I think he called you Mr. Football or whatever. But how's your relationship been with Spurrier over the years?
Mine's fine. There wasn't banter back and forth with Steve and I. Steve had banter with everybody. So we just let it go. But yeah, I think he called me Mr. February, and he had 2 or 3 like that. And I was actually at dinner with he and Jerry because we're all friends, and his wife Jerry one night, and Jerry looked at me when they beat us 41-0 and took pictures of the scoreboard, and that was their Christmas card, which I really appreciate because I kept that picture. And I've been able to use it a lot since that day. Jerry said, I bet you would love to just run the score up on Steve one day, wouldn't you? And I said, yes. And that was that was the end of dinner.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Adam Smith, go ahead.
Sorry, Mac, trying to catch up with what you were saying there. Art setting me up perfectly because I was going to ask you the very same thing. I mean, has 1989 always stuck in your craw a little bit? I know you never have anything really bad to say about Spurrier. You guys seem like you're friendly, obviously, but is that one has it always remained back there in your memory as one that, you know, you didn't like and motivates you?
You know, every loss does. And that's what coaches do. You go back to it. Steve Spurrier is one of the best coaches in the history of college football. He didn't cheat. He went by the rules, and he treated people right. He and I are different when you start talking about the opponent. He loved to stir it up, and I don't. It's not my deal. I show respect to our opponent at all times because I just feel like that's the way we should be. Steve had a different philosophy than that, and that's okay. Everybody has their own right to do what they want to do, but he and I have had a mutual respect for many years. And I just respect the fact that he won so many games and he did it the right way. And he treated people right on his staff and on his team because they all liked him. So we've always been really good friends. We cut up about 89. The year before, we beat them if we don't drop an interception on the last drive of the game. So we could go back and we would have been 1-1, but I'm not going to get into that. I think that was 41-38. We lost over at Duke.
It looks like 35-29.
35-29.
That's what it looks like.
And we dropped an interception on the last drive, or they don't score and we win the game. But it's you go back to games that I never blame the opponent for beating us. I always take it personal. What could we have done differently? And that was a bad Carolina team. I mean, we were bad. And we were bad in so many different ways because we'd lost Kennard Martin and we were kind of starting over, and it was in a transition period. And it was one of the worst teams I've ever been part of. And they would fight some, but they just gave out in the end. So that really wasn't Duke's fault. When somebody beats you that badly, it's your fault. And it was my fault because I was in charge of the entire program. And that's what I remember with every loss.
Some of the guys that we talked to, the players yesterday, obviously, and some of them mentioned that Kevin Donnelly seems to ring the bell a lot. Like, I don't know if did you commission that? Did you put him in charge of that? Did he ask your approval? How did that come about? Like, did you have to give the A-OK on that? Do you want him ringing the bell? Like, how does that shake out?
Kevin brings an amazing amount of energy. We call it crazy, but good crazy. He's positive crazy, and he screams and shouts, and he walks into I saw the interviews, and some of the kids said that, he brings it all the time. Sometimes we don't appreciate it. That's at 6:30 in the morning when he walks in and he starts screaming at the meeting before we start. Hey, everybody ready to go? We're excited. And they're all looking at him like, I'm still asleep, man, leave me alone. But no, we have 8 guys on our staff that played here for me, and they're all passionate about Duke. I mean, the rivalry, they grew up with it. So Kevin would do that. Natron Means he's passionate about the Duke game, and it was always the last game for them. It wasn't a midseason game. But Corey Holiday, Tommy Thigpen, they all have memories of this game, and that's why it's so special to them.
Okay, Mac, thank you.
But Kevin does ring the bell a lot.
Appreciate it.
Tommy, actually, go ahead.
Mac, I've talked to a lot of former players, and they always point to this game as being one of the most intense, one of the chippiest games on the schedule every year. You mentioned your former guys there on staff, but is it a challenge to convey that to the current players, especially the younger guys, until they've actually experienced it?
Tommy, the incoming guys, it's definitely different for them because they're like a Will Hardy that was interviewed last night. I just listened to him, and he said, yeah, it seems like this is really important to the players. And I thought, yes, it is. But it does help to have 8 guys on the staff that played in this game and know how important this game is, because they talk about it all week to the players and let the players understand the importance. And then you don't walk by an older alum this week or at Duke, I'm sure, where this game isn't really important to them. I mean, I have guys come up, we just beat Miami on the road. They don't even mention the Miami game. They come up and say, this week's important. You got to beat Duke. And I said, thank you for bragging on the kids for beating Miami. give us a break here. But yes, I do know how important the Duke game is.
As far as the game itself, coastal rival, you can get out to a big lead in the coastal. Is there a sense of, I mean, I know it's a week to week thing for every football team, but is there a sense that something's building? The more and more we win, the more important the next game becomes. Can you feel that within the building there?
Tommy, I talked to the guys about being ranked on Sunday, and they didn't even want to hear it because we were ranked 2 years ago, 22 and 20, the COVID year, 20, I guess, and went to Florida State and got beat. And then last year we were ranked in preseason and we didn't live up to it. So I've always told them I don't think they should even have polls till the college football playoff poll, because then there's a resume of teams and at least people have some idea of who's good and who's not. But this team, unlike last year's team, and I think because of that, learned that you have to play every week. And that it's really, really important to play to a standard every week, regardless of who you play. And then it's more fun when you play an Appalachian or you play a Duke, where all of the local people, your whole state is vested in the game and looking at it and talking about it, and that makes it more fun for the guys.
Thanks, Mack.
Thank you, Tommy.
All right, our final question today will come from Trey Scott. Go ahead.
Trey, I think you're muted. There
Sorry
you go.
about that, Coach.
That's all right.
Riley Leonard's been really good this year. How impressed have you been with him, and how hard is it to prepare against a guy that can beat you with his legs and his feet? I mean, legs
Trey,
and his...
Yeah, Trey, he is really, really good. He's very impressive. And Pat Suttis, our general manager and pretty much recruiting coordinator, was very aware of Riley during high school and thought he was really good. And so we didn't have him in this area because he's from Alabama. But he is really, really good. He's big, he's strong, he can run, he makes good decisions. They've done a really good job with him and that offense. They don't give up sacks. They don't have tackles for loss. We've given up both. And he's hard to bring down. He can run, but he can throw, and he's really accurate, and he's big. He's big and he's strong. So once again, the ACC is full of great quarterbacks, and we'll have two of the best in the country in this game on Saturday night, and it should be fun to watch both.
I agree. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you all, and I will see you Saturday night.